How's it going, guys? I'm Joshua and this is the Z Garage. And if you remember 2 weeks ago, I guess, we finished up the frame rails, putting all the nice rubberized undercoating on them, and it looks really, really good. I just finished taking all the tape off. The lines aren't super clean, but I guess it doesn't have to be because it's going to be kind of where nobody's going to see it. But it looks really good. It's going to do really nice for protecting the engine bay and the underside here, so I'm really, really happy with it. But this week we're going to go ahead and jump into finishing up cleaning the engine bay, and that's going to be the wiring harness. I showed some pictures of it in the last episode, I believe, but it is just old. It's full of like oil and dirt and everything, and it looks bad, and it's marking up my engine bay when I move stuff around. So I bought some new sheathing back here. I've got a couple different types. We've got some engine bay, like wire loom harness tape. So we're gonna go ahead and see what's working the best for us. I'll let you know because I honestly have no idea what's gonna work best. But we're gonna go ahead and jump into this. This is kind of the last thing that we need to do before we can start putting like everything really back into the engine bay. Like engine transmission kind of stuff. So I'm really, really looking forward to this because I've got some really cool stuff that's going to be happening just a little bit, probably like next week episode. So you should tune into that one because it's going to be awesome. But this is the last thing that we need to do to go ahead and clean this up. I do want to move the alternator wiring over to the passenger side because it was originally on the driver side, and then I just kind of made an extension harness, but it would be much better if I could just pull it back all the way to this side. So fingers crossed we'll be able to do that, and I really don't know what I'm doing, so we're gonna see what happens, and I will take you along with me. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. All right, guys, so I started on the passenger side. You can see I've gotten pretty much all of that sheathing off, pretty much up to this point right here. I just want to go ahead and go over kind of what these areas are, just in case you're curious as well. So there are a couple connectors up here that we just don't use or don't use anymore. Specifically for me, I believe these two right here used to be either cruise control or transmission related. I'm not 100% sure, but we don't have anything that plugs into those that I'm aware of right now. Coming down here, we do have this for the transmission, and pretty much the only thing that this uses right now is just the reverse lights. Everything else is unnecessary. A lot of this wiring used to be for the original ECU, so that it knew it was in neutral. This was a bypass for it. So we'll probably go ahead and be removing some of these. We have one relay that usually just goes up over here. There's a separate piece in here for all the fusible links, so you can see that there. We've got some battery wires right here. This usually goes on that fusible links, connects the battery to the rest of the harness there. Down here we have the isolator that holds the starter wires, I believe. I believe this is the power for the starter, and then these are either power and signal or something else. But I've taped these up. Oh, hopefully you guys can see that all right. I've taped these up just because I didn't want them scratching anything over here. You can see all of the sand that's come out of my harness since this was all sandblasted and got really, really dirty. So we'll be cleaning that all up eventually. Jumping over to here, part of the main loom comes up to the fuse box, or sorry, relay box, and then the rest of it goes over and into across, this piece that goes across back here, and then we have a couple pieces. I'm not sure what some of these are for. We will figure that out here in a bit. Any of these pieces that look like this are headlights. So I know this is a, well, one of these is headlight and one of these is fog light. I'm not sure, of course. I would just have to test. And then we have a really long piece. Let me grab it. This guy over here. And we have turn signal. This is the side marker on the fender. And then this is actually the horn right here. So that actually routes up this way and goes to them typically. Sorry, up this frame rail area and then routes to them. So looking pretty good. Pretty much anywhere that it splits off, like right here, I kind of just left the electrical tape as is, so I can know when I go ahead and redo this that I need to go ahead and mark that this is a bundle of wires that is an offshoot. I think what I'm going to go ahead and do is tape all of these clumps together, just so that I know where everything is. Take off all of the original really gross electrical tape, and then I think I'm going to wash the harness Just kind of soak it a little bit with water from like a spray bottle, just to get as much of this dirt and grime out as possible. I just want to go ahead and make sure that it is clean. I don't really care too much that it looks good because it's obviously going to be covered, but I just don't want all this sand and garbage everywhere. So this is looking pretty good. I think I'm going to go ahead and continue on to this side. It's largely more of the same stuff. This second harness right here is for the alternator cables. You can see the high gauge wires here. If we come over this way, these really thick white wires here are the alternator and possibly battery positive. I'd have to check which ones these are. But we're gonna go ahead and end up undoing these and like cutting them somewhere probably in this area and then splicing on the original alternator harness back into this area here. So we're gonna be doing that. I'm actually gonna go ahead and upgrade the gauge of the wire for the alternator because we're gonna be running, I think it's a 150 amp Titan alternator, but I will double check on that for you guys. And obviously I'll show it once I go ahead and do it. But when we're running something that's that high amperage, I believe the original alternator was 70, so we're doubling it. You wanna make sure and check that you have a proper gauge wire for your bigger alternator. Usually like the maximum 90 amp is not an issue because you're never really going to be using all 90 amps. But whenever you're upgrading really far past, we do want to make sure we have the proper gauge. So I will be probably pulling most of that out and then putting in a new wire there. But if you were doing this, you could just go ahead and pull that wire all the way back through this side and then pull it out right here. So looking pretty good. I'm hoping we can remember what some of these pieces are. Actually, these are for the headlight motors most likely. Well, this really big one I'm pretty sure is. Not sure what that 2 pin is for. Something, we'll figure it out. But yeah, looking pretty good. I'm happy with how it's coming along. So much dirt and garbage coming out of here. So as I expected, because every time I moved it, you know, just all this dirt and stuff was coming out of it. So looking really good. I think I'm probably just gonna end up cleaning this and then maybe spraying it with like some Restore paint, like the black Restore stuff, just because I don't want to have to, I don't know, make a new one, buy a new one, or kind of anything with that, but I do want it to look better. So we'll do something with that. Obviously, I'll show it as well. Looking really good. So that is just the progress update. I will go ahead and show you guys how it turns out here in just a second. All right, guys, so we've made some good progress on this wiring harness. It kind of looks the same probably as before, but I've stripped pretty much all of the original electrical tape off of it, and I've gone all the way up to this point right here. I really like this sheath that goes across this core support right here, and it has some really nice clips that go in as well. So I'm going to leave that, and I'm just going to do this side and this side. I was looking at the alternator wiring. We have 2 big white power wires that I can, well, 3 white power wires on this side, 2 white here and 1 black. Those are probably all the same. I'll just go ahead and probe them with my multimeter and make sure they are. But then we have this wire here, and I don't, oh, sorry if you can see that. I don't know exactly what this is for. I think it might be for the sensor or a signal of some other sort. And that actually goes up this way on the loom. So we might have to extend it going up this way. If you can see, it actually tees in right here. So it actually does go forward. So we can probably find it on this side of the loom. But regardless, the original alternator wiring had this pin. Obviously it's a different color now. That went to it. I believe it's, like I said, just like a sensor wire for how much voltage it's got. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can read up a little bit on what that wire does, where it goes. And then I'm going to continue stripping down this side of the harness to the same way as this side. I was just using a wet rag and kind of wiping it off. It seems to be working pretty well. And then I think once we're done and I have all the wires that I need routed where they need to go, I think I can go ahead and start resheathing. So fingers crossed that it's not too much longer here, and it's actually looking really good. The wires seem to be in pretty good condition. I don't see any issues with them, so I'm happy about that. All right, let me go ahead and do some more stuff, and we'll pick up after that. All right, guys, so I did some investigation on these wires right here just to make sure that we're sure what's going on. I believe this brown and white striped wire is for the dash light that pops on when your battery is low or the alternator is not charging. It's just, I think it says battery on it. And that actually goes up this way and down this way. And the wiring diagram, you can find that free, by the way, on Xenon Z-Car if you go to Z31 and reference. This one, it goes one direction for an automatic transmission, one direction for a manual transmission, and then it goes through two separate connectors, one on either route. And that's like the designation that's different between the two. So I'm not sure. I have an automatic transmission harness because my car was an automatic transmission, but I've deleted a lot of the automatic transmission stuff. So I don't know exactly what it needs. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, just to play it safe, is just cap this off here, wire tie it back in, and then put a little electrical tape on it. I'll cap it so that it'll be nice and sealed, won't be able to short out. And then we'll go ahead and just find it over here. We'll verify with actually, you can see there's a similar color wire right here going up into this fuse box. So I'll find it, we'll double check, make sure it's the same one. And tap into it on this side, just to make sure that everything is safe. And then we will go ahead and you can see, so there's 3 wires coming out of the harness right here, 1 black and 2 white. The wiring diagram is interesting. It says that they're all white, at least on this connector right here. So this is the one with the brown wire. And then it actually says it's brown and white on the side. So this is obviously black, not white. But it looks like that's a positive. It goes to the battery eventually. So we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna see if I can find continuity between one of these, I'm gonna see if I can find continuity between one of these white wires over here and this black wire over here. I'm gonna probe that end down there, and then I'll probe a couple of these up here that I have by the battery. If you guys remember, I did the fusible links, and then I eventually did a battery power wire from the alternator to the battery that was separate. So I actually have 2 blocked off white wires up here, and then this one is direct to the battery from the positive terminal. Sorry, I keep missing. I hope you guys can see that all right. So I'm gonna go ahead and check out some of those, see if I can figure out, it's clearly spliced right here. And then there are obviously some splices down over here as well. There's this 1 white wire going that way. We just want to make sure that this all still has continuity to where it needs to go. So I'm going to work on that real quick. The next scene will probably be me having battery wires coming out over here and then starting to sheath up all the rest of this, because that's pretty much the next step. Is I just need to make sure that the alternator has everything it needs on this side, and then we'll be good to go. So I'm going to do some testing and I'll show you guys the final version. Alright guys, real quick, I want to go over the alternator wiring just in case you are also moving your alternator from the driver side to the passenger side. So this is the wiring we have right here. What actually goes into the alternator is this plug, this big lug here, and then this ground. So this is clearly a ground, and this goes to the connector with the signal wire for the check relay. And then we have all these, which are just powers. I'm not sure why they've set it up like this, having a connector and then also a lug. But regardless, these are all basically getting alternator power at some point or another in their lives. So what I realized is I actually burnt, I don't know if you guys can see that right pin that's super toasty in there. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's too shadowy. You can see 1 pin in there. The second pin is actually burnt completely off. So I wasn't getting any continuity through this harness. But the alternator is grounded to the block, and the block is grounded to the chassis. So I assume that's why I wasn't having any issues with my system. But in case you ever short out your alternator like I did, definitely check this connector and make sure you didn't burn out that pin, because clearly I did. So what we need to do is go ahead and replicate just this setup on the other side of the car, where we have power, 12 volt power, and then the signal and a ground. So it should be super simple. Let me see if you guys can see this real quick. All right, so up here in this harness, we have this little ground strap, and it just goes right there on the strut tower. We have the same one on the other side. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut this ground. This is the ground wire coming out of the strap there. I'm gonna go ahead and solder these together with one of my sealed connectors. And then on the other side of the car, all right, here we are on the other side of the car, and there's a ground here somewhere. We're gonna go ahead and tap into that. It goes into this guy right here. Same thing, same idea. We're gonna tap into that for the ground, and then of course we have all our big white wires here. We'll go ahead and tap into those for the power. In terms of the signal for that check relay, it actually comes, I don't know if you guys can see this, it It goes through this harness, which is coming from across the other side, and then just straight up into this fuse box, into the check lamp relay. So we're gonna go ahead and cut, it's this wire right here, we're gonna cut it and then splice in a new wire that comes down here, and then that's where we're gonna have all of our alternator wiring come out from. But we do need to go ahead and just extend this wire a little bit. So I found a wire that I wasn't using and cut it, but you can just use, normal wire. It should just be a signal for the relay, which is a very low current wire, so you should pretty much be able to use anything you want, but this is a good gauge. It's been in the car, so we know it's good. And we're gonna go ahead and just split it and then wrap it down here. I'm gonna go ahead and split into these positives and then get positive for there. We wanna keep the one that's going across to the other side, that one big one that's separate from those other two. We wanna keep that one the same. They're all spliced together, but we just don't wanna accidentally cut it. Oh, I don't know if you guys can see that. Right over here, they're spliced together. So we wanna make sure that those all stay the same. And have continuity. So that's the game plan. I will go ahead and do that and show you guys what the final version looks like. All right, guys, as you can see, the harness is looking really, really good. So we have just the harness tape on right now. And this tape that I got on Amazon, it's like, oh, there you guys can see, maybe. It's like X fasten. I'll see if I can put a link down there. I've used two types of this tape before. This is my favorite of the two. It is really easy to tear. It's kind of like duct tape where it has like the rows, and then it's also got really good adhesion. So I do recommend that if you're going to be doing this or anything with wiring. But let's go ahead and go over these battery connections real quick. And I'm only harping on this because I spent a bunch of time on this today, and it is just kind of one of those things you have to really wrap your head around how to actually make it work properly. So basically, we cut the wires over here. And then we left them undone for a second because we came over here and we wanted to make sure we found the two same wires that connected to those two. So there's two thicker wires and then a thinner wire. And I realized that the thick and thin that were right here next to each other were probably the thick and thin that were over here. So I cut the thick and thin on this side. They're all kind of bundled. You can see all three of them are just right there. It goes thin, thick, thick. So I did the thin and the thick. And I cut those two, used a multimeter to figure out that the wires on this side were connected to the wires on this side. You have to make sure to probe the right direction, and then assuming that there's no splices in here that we don't know about, then you know that you have the right wire if you have continuity, because these wires, like I was showing earlier, go up and then they splice together right there before they get to the battery and all that. So we wanted to make sure that we cut the right wires, and that's because there is still one thick white wire going up that way, and I wanted to make sure that it still had battery power. This one connector here is actually the thing that's doing that. It goes up this way, is spliced in, and then that wire runs all the way back and around again. I'm not 100% sure what that wire is for, because I have both of mine spliced off. One of them was the original alternator wire, and then I forget what the other one was, but I don't use those two anymore in my current setup. So the alternator needs to provide power to at least that for whatever it does. So I wanted to make sure that these were good. Soldered these with some solder seal, these connectors that I have that are weather tight and have a nice little bit of solder in them to get a good connection. And then I replaced this connector here. This is the signal and ground for the, I'm not actually sure exactly what it's for, the warning bulbs of some sort, but it goes up into the fuse box here. And these guys, the wires actually go down, around, and then back up, and then into this offshoot right here. See if I can get you guys this way. And then right in this straight section, I have it spliced into the ground, this ground here. And then going up into here, there's a signal wire. So that's where those two are spliced in. The way that I spliced the signal was so that the one going this way still had power as well, because again, I don't know what that's doing on that side. Want to make sure that I'm not messing anything up. So this is looking really good, guys. I'm super happy with how it came out. I love the little spirals on the tape and everything. The next step is to go ahead and clean up just these corners here where it ends. Just take this loom as far as I can back to that grommet, just because I haven't gotten all the way and that's kind of still bundled up with some stuff. And then we'll go ahead and start putting the rest of the sheathing on. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do it similar to how Nissan did it, with you wrapping the ends of the sheathing in this, so it looked really, really
tightly wrapped and held tightly to the wires. Looked really good, and I'm gonna emulate the same thing here. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. We'll jump to the future and see how it looks, and I'm super excited, guys, because this is looking really, really good. All right, guys. I don't know if you can see this or not, but we have the entire harness done now, and it's looking really, really good. So we can see on this side we have a nice big sheath all the way around, up to some of this stuff, up and around over here, and then down, and then all the way back up. I did keep the original harness on a few places in that corner there. All of those wires that go to like the starter and stuff, they're not super visible. And the OEM harness is really a very good quality plastic. So just wiping it down actually does a lot for it. It's just places that are super visible that I wanted really nice clean stuff. So that's looking good. We go up to here, and then I actually left this headlight sensor, the original harness wrap. I might go ahead and put just a wrap over this. I won't go ahead and take that off, but we'll see in the future. But overall, guys, I'm super happy with this. I would go ahead and put it back in kind of the way it's supposed to lay out, except I want to go ahead and touch up some places. Like right here, you can see that there's a little scuff up on top of this strut tower. And then even like down here, obviously there's these paint streaks. I want to go ahead and touch these up with some paint again because I messed these up and the harness is scratched, you know, places like over here. Actually, that's just a circle. I don't know if you guys can see this here. I want to go ahead and touch up some of this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this loose for now, so we can go ahead and repaint some of these areas. But I'm super happy with how this came out, guys. I think this is going to be a really good improvement for just the general looks and usability. I have a much better understanding, of course, now of how all of this wiring works. This wire that I have just drooped right here actually goes from the fusible links to the battery. My fusible link is chilling up there. And it usually is connected with this big main harness right here. But I realized when I was pulling it all apart that it actually just pulls completely out. And you can see that white wire that goes all the way up and down and around ends up at the fusible link. So it's wrapped together, but it is its own single wire. It doesn't actually go into the main harness. So that was something interesting to learn, which means that if I wanted to go ahead and upgrade that wire to something that's higher gauge for higher amperage, I can go ahead and do that without having to worry about it. So overall, guys, I think this was really, really fun. I'm super happy with how it came out. Clearly, if I have missed anything, definitely drop a comment down below, guys. I will go ahead and put a link for some of the things that I used. I've got so much of this tubing left over, guys. I really didn't need all of it. I think I used mostly 1 inch. Pretty much all of this main harness here is 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch, and then this section right here is all 1 inch as well. Actually, I think that section from like right there to right there is 3/4 inch. But you probably could get away with using 1 inch. Even then, in some places, it was a little bit too small. And then the other small gauge for 2-wire stuff like this. And then I used, I think this is 1/2 inch for things that are just a little bit thicker. But really what I mostly used here was the 1 inch harness. I used about 2 rolls of that tape, so I still have 3, and then even a little bit on that last one still. So overall, this is really a pretty inexpensive way to do this. I think you could probably get away with like $30 to $40 worth of materials here, and then just, you know, a good bit of time to pull out the old harness and redo it. But I am super happy with it. So as always, guys, if you have any questions or comments, drop them down below. I think next week we're going to be working on the engine over there, sneak peek. So it's going to be really, really cool. I've already started making the video for that because I got too excited. Basically, we're doing some really, really cool things, stripping it down and then going to go ahead and put on a bunch of really cool new stuff. So super excited for that. Definitely keep tuned. It should be next week. I don't think we're gonna have a gap week. And I'm really looking forward to having this running. I'm hoping to have it in the next few weeks here, guys. So keep your eyes glued to the channel because there's some big stuff coming really soon. So I will see you guys next week, and I hope you guys have a great week.